Hey, good evening. What's up? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Real Life Relationship Growth Get Together platform, chat it up, podcast, whatever. You know, I don't care which one we call it, as long as we are here together tonight. It is Thursday. It is Thursday. Welcome all. Welcome in the room. Welcome on the couch. Let's get started with this discussion. So, hey, I'm Donna. Welcome. I am the creator of the Real Life Relationship Growth Platform. Um, this platform is a place for all adults. All adults. When I say all adults, I'm going to say 21 and up. 21 and up, 21 and forever. This is a place for us to come together to chat and talk about different topics related to relationships and how we can help them grow and be better for one another. That is it. This is the criteria for you to be here, to be a part of this family. And being a part of the family, let me just say this real quick. Being a part of the family means a few things. It means I want you to engage. I want you to go to YouTube and subscribe. You don't have to talk, you don't have to speak, you don't have to be up front on camera unless you choose to and you want to join me here in the studio for a certain topic. But I would like you guys to go subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Facebook page, all of that good stuff. Okay. We're here every Thursday. We're here every Thursday. So let me go with this. Um, the criteria for you to be a part of this family, for you to be here, you have to be at least 21. If you're 18, we're not going to shun you. We're not going to put you out. Even if you're a teenager, adolescent, we're not going to say you can't be here and listen in because there are some really engaging and helpful topics that can help you through the come up the ranks up into adulthood. Okay. So we're not shunning anyone, but just know that some topics are a little bit sensitive for younger ears and the least amount of experience, but that's okay. Again, this is the criteria. You have to be single, dating, courting, married, divorced, or widower. That is the criteria for you to be here. That is it. I guarantee if you sit for a second, you fall into one of those categories. This place is for you. This place is for you. So here we don't do any male bashing, any female bashing. Now we have jokes and we have a good time. We have serious topics. We have not so serious topics. We talk about all the things that come under the umbrella of relationships. We start, that male female dynamic, mother father dynamic, and it branches out. It branches out because with that beginning comes children. That means there were parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody in that arena. So each topic each week may not relate to your life directly, but I guarantee you it touched on somewhere and someone. So let me say this. I am not a relationship expert. I am not. I'm just a Black woman in this world, living this life, doing the damn thing, and enjoying myself in the process. That is who I am. But this is the thing. I've had some ups, I've had some downs, I've had some experiences in life that may help you out. You've had some experiences in life that may help me out or someone else. I always like to try to bring on professionals when we come in the room. When we come in the room, I like to have professionals on the couch with us. So when I say professionals, there are people here that join me that have gone to school and earned degrees and things like that. There are also people who are just living with the hard knocks and the knocks of life. So we're professionals in our own rights. What you can take that can help build you, please receive it. What's not for you, go ahead and throw it out the window. Somebody else can use it, and that's okay. So tonight our topic, I'm going to put this up real quick. Usually I don't do this until we kind of get into the discussion of things, but I want to put this up first and then you'll understand our topic. You'll understand our topic. Now, y'all always know that I always like to have friends and family hanging with me, right? Always like to do that. So before I put that up, let me back up a little bit. you don't want to have your guests waiting too long, right? You don't want to do that. Let's be respectful of them and their time. So, I have a few gentlemen that are going to be hanging with me tonight. Some are very familiar, and you all are familiar with. Others are new, but everyone's here for a reason. So I asked these gentlemen to join me tonight. I don't know if my girl Corey B is going to join me, my right hand in this place. I don't know if she's going to be with us tonight, but if she does, she'll pop in. She'll pop in. So before I put the topic up, before I put this script up that I want us to start off with, I want to introduce the gentlemen who are with me tonight, and we're going to wait for the other ones to come in, okay? All right. First one I'm going to introduce is my friend, my near and dear, my brother, Mr. Tony Fontana. Hey, Tony.
Hey Donna, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Mr. Tony Fontana, the marriage redeveloper. Tony is a certified life coach. His primary focus is married men who have been previously divorced. Married men who have been previously divorced. He is married to my homegirl of 12 years, Miss Paula. Miss Paula, they have 4 children. Um, and Tony shared a little bit of a tidbit about himself that is so relatable. It's so relatable. We like to have those things that relate. Tony has been divorced twice. He's had 2 previous marriages. Um, for those of y'all that don't think that's important, it's important. And we're gonna hear why in a little bit because it's gonna all tie in. Tony, how was your day?
Well, my day was great. A little hot, but awesome. And I'm so glad that I'm here with you and the other gentlemen that will be following, coming on
Yeah.
later. Thanks so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. So when he comes up and pops up, we're gonna pull him in. But you guys pretty much know who that is. That's our homeboy Jimmy. Jimmy's platform. Jimmy has a platform, he and his wife, and they are relationship real talk. Relationship real talk. And Jimmy will give a little spiel about himself when he comes. But of course, this brother right here, this gentleman right here, we've been rocking a little bit longer than everybody else on this thing, and that's perfect and that's good. I missed him. He's been away for a little bit handling business and totally understand. But let me bring my boy on, Mark. Why is this? Oh, okay. Let's get this right here. Here we go. Here we go. Hello, sir.
What's happening?
I miss you.
You ain't miss me because you ain't see me. You see me
That's
enough to miss
why.
me. Right. What's happening though?
Yeah, this is Mr. Date Night. Mr. Mark Weaver of Miss of Date Night.
Mhm.
Tony represents for the married gentleman. Mark represents, well, tonight we're just gonna say, for the single gentleman. Um
If
in some
only for one night.
right.
Go
Right. How
ahead.
was your day, Mark?
Challenge. Not. You know
I
what?
said, how
Not
was
challenge.
your
It was
day?
weird. Weird.
It was weird. Yeah.
But I made it.
Yeah. I see your
That's all that
background is
matters.
a
I
little
got
bit
through it.
different. Where's Mike? Yep, you
Who is
made it.
Mike?
You made it.
Oh.
Jackson. Where's
Oh
yeah.
no!
You
I
changed.
took everything down. I'm changing everything around. I always change things out. It's like been my 3rd year, so I got to come with something different. So right now it's just the beginning stages. Probably about another 2 weeks, gonna look a whole totally different. So we're gonna rock out again.
Okay.
It's been a minute.
Okay.
It's been a minute.
All right. All
I got
right.
some new stuff.
It's been a minute.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. All right. And nothing wrong with it. New is
Uh-uh.
always good. New can
Uh-uh.
be good. So I get it. I get it. All right. So I'm going to put this caption up because this is the center, the focus of what we're talking about tonight. Let me put this up for us to read here. To read here. This is the center. This is the focus of our discussion tonight. How your partner was loved as a child will show up in how they react when hurt, how they communicate during conflict, and how they respond when you share your feelings. When you share your feelings, how they respond when you share your feelings. So our topic title tonight is what did they do to you?
Get on my goddamn nerves. That's what they did.
What did they do to you?
Right.
And when we say they, y'all can see this little thing here. That is our family tree. We all have a family tree. We all have branched out from somebody, somewhere, somehow. And so when we say when the question is asked, what did they do to you? We're talking about that family tree. We're talking about how those things flow from the people that came together and produced us and had us and gave us life on this earth
Right.
outside of the creator. That's what we're talking about. Now, mind you, when I say what did they do to you, doesn't necessarily have to be negative. But let's get into this discussion. We're going to see how that relates and how that relates. When you think about a family tree, Tony, when you see the picture of the family tree, what's your thoughts? What's the first thing that pops in your head, whether related or unrelated to the topic?
When I see a family tree, especially when I relate it to myself, I realize that my family is very diverse. And one of the reasons that makes it diverse is in my two previous marriages, I come from a family where you call people aunts and uncles that were actually friends, good friends of your mom and dad. So not blood. So my two previous marriages, when I was divorced or got divorced from my two previous wives, I did not divorce their family. So I am still in touch with all of my family. Some people think that's a little weird and odd, but in my case, I've got multiple mother-in-laws, father-in-laws, and I think out of all of that, there's only been three people that do not consider me family. But I consider them family. But I figure 3 out of the 20, 30, 40, 50 people, that's pretty good odds.
Ain't bad. That's not bad.
So very diverse.
Yeah, they always say if everybody like you, that means you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
You're doing something wrong. Anytime you do something right, that means you're gonna have people that's gonna be in opposition of the greatness that you may have.
Well, Tony, I can kind of relate to that because my family, we're the same way. My ex sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, even my ex-husband Daryl, like we're still a part of one another. We have children that came from these unions. So we felt like as a family, it's so important to keep those bonds together. So everyone has their place, but we still consider one another family. So I get it. I get it.
Amen.
Hmm I get it. All right, Mark. When you see the picture of the tree, the family tree, what are your thoughts? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I guess I self-examine myself, you know what I mean? Because that's going to tell me a little bit more about where I'm rooted, you know what I'm saying? So all trees have roots, right? So even though we may branch off into different areas or whatnot, we're still all grounded in one space, one thing with as far as rooted in one thing. So being a person that believes in history, understanding who I am and what I can be, I just look at my life and I think, well, dang, I come from greatness, right? Because I'm achieving great things in my life, and just learning how to persevere, just things that make who I am. I'm sure they were passed down. So that's what I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Well,
I like that. Yeah. Okay, okay. So I have a few pictures. Um
I'm eating a salad, y'all. I'm sorry. Hey, I
you
ate it.
fine. Do your thing. Your hardworking man deserves a meal. So
Right.
hey, we not gonna trip. Just don't smack in the mic, okay?
I can't promise you that now.
You are good. It's all good. So I'm gonna flash up a few pictures. Because we remember we're talking about how you were treated as a child. Pretty much determines, dictates, or can be how you are, what fashions you as an adult. So I'm gonna put up a few pictures and y'all just tell me what's your thoughts when y'all see these pictures that's coming up.
hmm I see a child that's probably have been in the past, always been um, communicated in a manner that makes him have fear,
Hmm.
right?
Yes,
Very
yelling.
fear driven. The shadow of his father is like is an example of his frustration of whatever else he got going on. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
typically we love our children, especially if well, most of us. It's not always 100%, but we love our children. But there's this thing that I see here where that father probably, due to the stresses of being a husband, him not knowing how to cope, and maybe something maybe rooted in his family has allowed him to become frustration, which he's sending it over to his son. That's what I see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Tony, what you think?
So I actually see a little bit of me. There was a time
Mm.
where I had to, when I was going through my first divorce, it was a very difficult time. And I later had to apologize to my two boys, my first two boys, because I did a lot of yelling out of frustration
Mm-hmm.
because of my situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Dang.
we have to be real careful that we don't allow our personal frustrations to be transferred to our kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I also came from a divorced family, so my parents were divorced. And even though, and don't laugh, I didn't get spanked very often
Mm-hmm.
as a child, but um, I knew that
Are you
there
getting
was some
are you
things
getting
going on.
are you getting spanked now? I'm just messing with
Try,
Yeah,
you,
did
Tony.
it
Go
come
ahead.
around full circle?
I tried, I tried,
He said I
All
I
right,
tried.
that's just
tried,
act. My bad, Tony. But I
I
just had to
tried.
ask, bro.
But it's funny because my parents didn't really yell at each other, but I just knew that there was something that wasn't quite right.
Hmm.
And you know, it was funny. I used to tell a story about my dad spanking me. I said, "Yeah, my dad used to spank me because I used to wake my sister up all the time." And he took me aside one day as a young adult and said, "You know, I spanked you one time, son." And I said, "Well, that must have been one hell of a spanking because it felt like 100, you
Yeah.
know, 100 whoopings, but it was only one."
Yeah. You remembered that one.
But he set me straight.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. So in seeing that picture for me, I didn't really grow up in a home either where there was a lot of yelling. Um but I did grow up in a home where my dad was really quiet. He was quiet, he was calm, he's still that way. And my mom was the voice of reason. She was that voice, she if you were in trouble, you didn't hear it from him, but you just knew you were in trouble. And he wouldn't have to say a word, but you knew you were in trouble. But sister girl, oh yeah. Oh yeah, you're gonna know it. You're gonna know it. So that voice of hearing. So what are y'all thoughts on how you think that child now an adult, let's say he's an adult now. How do you think he handles communicating with his significant other?
I mean, you're well, you know the saying. You're a product of your environment. At some point, it's learned behavior.
Hmm.
You have examples around you that shape and mold who you are as you come up in the home, outside of the home, or wherever you may be. It as you move forward in life, it pieces of that actually that help shape the mind. Now, at some point, we all have to find on how to shape those things. But to answer your question, it definitely can allow him not to be the most you know silent man, silent
Hmm.
assassin. My stepfather he was a silent assassin. He didn't say a whole lot,
Yeah.
right? But what I did notice that his his dad was similar,
Hmm.
right? But you knew it. You could feel the energy that you did something wrong, right? So
Hmm.
it will have an effect on how he handles, himself. One, right? Because confidence kind of goes down with that as
Mm.
well, because he's been told what he's not the whole time. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that, and also how to pretty much just communicate with spouse, possibly, and even family. So it does play a role.
Yep. Yeah. A major role. A major role. Okay. I wanna um I wanna show another one. This one, let's do this one.
Look at that! Look at that haircut.
Right. Right. At some point, I think we saw a lot of those back in the day.
Right. Just put a
Some
bowl
type of
on
way.
it.
Some type of way. Okay. Y'all thoughts on this one? Y'all thoughts on this one?
They need another barber.
Yeah, they're
What you
matching.
got, Tony, outside of the fashion sense on it?
They got matching. I. It looks like they're he's the father is helping the son with homework of some sorts, and what I see is the son had a success, and
Ah,
the father realized that he needs to celebrate
mhm,
successes with his son, um, because there's going to be moments of failure, but I think celebrating is very, very important in any relationship. And sometimes we focus, like the previous slide, we focus on where we don't do something right,
mhm,
but we don't make a bigger deal about when somebody does, uh, acts right. And I think we
mhm,
should, as adults, we should probably have more celebration of each other, which
mhm,
is, I'm just going to add this little thing in. That's what I like about you, Donna, because you have um, that heart, that heart
mhm,
of celebrating people.
mhm.
And I think probably the main reason why you do this is because you want to see relationships work and be all that they can be, and that's a great thing to be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Most definitely. When I met the gentleman through the Husband Show podcast, that Mark introduced me to them, they have this thing that they always say, we know how to do it wrong. We know how to do it wrong. So now we're trying to talk about, getting it right. I know how to do it wrong. I've
Right.
been I've been married and divorced several times. So I know how to do it wrong. But I realized at some point that I have to get it right if I want to be productive in life, just for myself and for those around me, because those things like that father yelling earlier, Mark made a good point. As a husband, he could be dealing with some struggles. So who is it affecting? It's affecting the children. It's affecting
Right.
the child.
Right.
And that makes for a very poor upbringing and fear and all the things you all said. So I appreciate that, Tony, because it's definitely, that's definitely a part of why I'm here and I do this thing, because it's important. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Um, Tony, we were talking a little bit earlier, and you were telling me, you gave me a kind of testimony of kind of how this thing ties in. Can you share that story?
Yeah, a little personal story. Sometimes we have to be careful what we say to our children, because you really don't know how that's going to affect them later on down the road. Um, when I was 8 years old, which was the time when my mom and dad were going through their divorce. One day I was just sitting there in the kitchen with my mom, my grandmother, and my mom says, "I feel sorry for you." My family calls me Eddie. "I feel sorry for you, Eddie."
Mm.
And I'm like 8 years old. I'm like, "What?" So I asked her, I said, "Well, why do you feel sorry for me?" And this is what came out of her mouth. "I love my mother. She was wonderful." But this is what came out of her mouth. "I feel sorry for you, son, because you have to grow up to be a man."
Mm.
And
Mm.
I didn't realize the effect that actually had on me. Now, I thought I took it in the right way, and I said, "Okay, well, mommy, sorry you feel that way," in my mind. But I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you that, yeah, that men are good.
Mm-hmm.
That men aren't what you necessarily have experienced or think they are. And
Mm-hmm.
I probably spent a lot of my life, early adult life, trying to prove to her that men are pretty awesome. But in doing that, um, I didn't learn some things that I probably should have learned. And so, again, it doesn't have to be something that's super terrible, or she didn't scream at me. She didn't keep repeating it. She only said it one time. But based on what she was experiencing at the time, she felt like that was something she needed to say to me. In my case, I think it helped me,
Mm-hmm.
but it could have really went south. Um, Thinking back.
Yeah. 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 No, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, those personal moments. We have to deal with vulnerability a lot when we
Right.
are trying to grow. Growth requires vulnerability. So I appreciate you sharing that. So this thing about communication, um, we know it's the key to everything. How we communicate, how we talk to one another, how we deal with one another. And although our focal point right now seems to be pointing at how we talk and deal with children, which is so important, we have to realize that um, when we come together with someone, we have to understand the differences in each other, and we have to learn to respect the differences, but we also have to respect the fact that someone isn't receiving us in the way we're coming at them. We got to understand that. So, in other words, because Tony, we talked about earlier being yellers and being loud,
Right. Right.
um, in our homes. Like my home, my family growing up was like that. We were loud. We together, we talking, we yelling. And I told the story before, one of my cousins that really didn't grow up with us initially, and he came in at a older age, he thought we were getting ready to fight. He felt like we were getting ready to fight when we're talking. And my
Right.
mom was like, "Brother, when somebody take a breath, that's when you better jump in. That's when you better jump in." So we tend to come into relationships and we take those areas personal when someone raises their voice, and we come from the opposite. I'm gonna come to you, Mark, for a second, but Tony, tell us your experience with that, because like I said, yeah, my homegirl Paula is your wife. So tell us a little bit about how that dynamic kind of worked with you all.
So I want to start off by saying that in any relationship, understanding a person's temperament is very important, because you tend to communicate based on your temperament. I come from a very loud, you could have 5 subjects talking about 5 different things at the same
At the
time.
same time.
Everybody's trying to talk over everybody. And Paula comes from a family where you don't talk. When somebody's talking, you don't talk. You listen, because the belief is you can't. I don't know how many times I've heard this. You can't talk and listen at
And
the
listen
same
at the
time.
same time.
But I will say this, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that.
Mhm.
But there are a few of us that actually can talk and listen at the same time.
Mhm.
But if that's not how you grew up, then you're going to see that as being disrespectful. Where me,
Right.
when I'm around, I see it the opposite. If you aren't talking and you're having, I've had friends, raise their hand. I said, "What are you raising your hand for?" I said, "Because I want to talk. I want to say something." I said, "Man, you just jump in." So to me, that's disrespect,
Mhm.
because you're trying to communicate. You're trying to get me to communicate the way you communicate,
When you can mhm. Mhm.
but you don't like the reverse. Like I can't get you to communicate my way.
So that yeah. So you brought me to a point I was thinking while you were saying that. I appreciate that. How do you navigate that? How do we navigate that when we have the loud, outspoken, and because Tony, I can relate. Like I said, we're like that. And then, because my ex husband Daryl was like that. Daryl was more like, I would say more like Paula's family man,
Right, right.
possibly. Daryl was the quiet, kind of laid back. And although when I got with the whole Wall crew, them jokers was like, yeah, right about it. But Daryl was more, because he was raised with his grandmother, and it was more of a okay, why are you yelling? And so how do we navigate that when you're in a relationship in that way? How do you navigate the differences?
So I think for me, I had to learn that it's not about me.
Mm,
Now, when I say that, I don't say that you have to put away who you are. Okay? That's not what
mhm,
I'm saying.
mhm,
But there comes a point where you have to say what's more important. I'm trying to communicate something to my wife, my partner, my friend, my mother, my father, and I'm
mhm.
trying to communicate in my language, but their language is totally different.
Totally different.
And even though we both speak English,
Mhm,
my dialect is not her dialect.
mhm,
I'm confrontational. She's non-confrontational.
mhm,
What I do know is my temperament being more extroverted, it's easier for me to adapt to an introvert than it is for an introvert, someone who's quiet, reserved, to adapt to me.
mhm,
So when
mhm.
I'm really fired up, um, I can come down. It's easier for me to come down than for Paula to come up. Now, when she
Okay.
gets around her crew, when she gets around her crew, it's different.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
it's
can
different
be,
dynamic.
but I
Yeah.
can fire, but I can fire up with anybody. People that I just met. If they're fired
Uh-huh.
up, I'll get fired up. I'll go with you, because to me, that's what's natural to me.
Yeah, yeah. Mark, what you think? What you think? So
Go ahead.
with those differences in the again, we're relating to how we were brought up, the different
Mhm.
households, and how we express ourselves when it comes to dealing with your mate, your partner, when there's that opposite. How do you respect that and still not lose who you are and how you go at?
Well, it won't be too much to bear because again, some of these things will be found out on the front end,
Mhm.
right? Before we even get to be mates or whatever, right? So when we decide to move forward, it's not going to be a bunch of push and pull because we're going to already know where we are. So I would probably say, like, say for instance, for me, I'm just going to use an example. I don't think I ever get into a position where I'm going to have a mate that doesn't know how to properly communicate without yelling, cursing, etc. Right? I'm gonna know that on the
Mhm.
front end, so we're not even gonna have that, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't really think you know that's going to be an issue in the house with someone you're married to because I think those things should be ironed out on the front end.
Right. Right.
I mean, why are we gonna work on some that can be deal breakers? I mean, you can't communicate. Two people talking at the same time, you can't hear each other. Period.
Right.
It don't work like that.
Right.
And sometimes silence is golden. You know what I'm saying? To a point where if a person gets to a point of being at a high, or maybe even saying things that may not be in true, you being quiet actually allows them to hear their own self, or they re reprogram their own self. If you just be quiet, you ain't got to yell. Like they
Mhm.
always say, a person, you got to be a dumb fool to argue with yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I would probably say sometimes you do have to be quiet, let them get it out, let them process it, because they'll find out that what they're saying probably isn't true. They're angry, and really they don't have else anywhere to go because you're not giving them anywhere else to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I see Jimmy has come up. I'm gonna bring him on in just a second. So, but um I totally agree with what both of you all are saying. It's not even a position I don't feel of changing who you are or saying, well, that's how I grew up and we talk loud and we express. There still can be that line and that understanding, like you said, Tony. There are some areas where it's easier for you to adjust than the other person. So are we here to win or are we here to accommodate one another? So we can both be in a safe, comfortable feel we're in a safe, comfortable space. Jimmy,
Yes, ma'am.
good evening.
How are you, Tony?
Jimmy,
What's up, man?
What's
how you
going
doing,
on? What's
man?
up?
What's going on, bro?
Nothing much, man. I've been listening to the show before I came on, guys. This is an interesting subject.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Tony was in the military, and this is how I look at this particular subject of communication. I look at it as if I am going to a foreign country and I don't speak the language,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I'm dealing with my wife, because she may not always agree, but a lot of times she's more emotional than she is cognitive,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a thinker. I'm gonna think before I feel. She's gonna feel way before she thinks, right?
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And that annoys me, right? But when I deal with her, I have to force myself to feel more, even though I am lost as all get out. It is
Mm.
like being overseas and you have that pamphlet for what that country and you're trying to say their words so they can,
Yes.
and
They
what I
can understand you.
but
Yeah.
let me explain to you, Donna. When you do that, even though you are butchering their language, they
Mm-hmm.
respect the effort.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They're like, okay,
Exactly.
this American is not coming over here trying to make us speak English, even though they speak your language, but they
Right.
just want you to respect their language, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm learning, okay, well, let me just if I need to move this conversation forward or get clarity or give clarity, I need to start speaking her language.
Mm.
So let
Mm.
me go down this feeling rabbit hole, which I'll I'll feel, and I'm like, okay, 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 babe. Do I understand? No. Do I hear you? Yes. Got you. And I'll say, so let me make sure I understood what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
feel that blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. So now I can say, now this is what actually happened. Do
Right.
you agree? Yeah.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
how did you come to that feeling?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So we can both get what we want, but we have to entertain the other person's way. We talk, Tony said it best. I mean, his family, he grew up with his family, all of them can talk at one time.
Yeah.
Donna,
Yeah.
his Paula, on the other hand, her family is kind of like one person speaks, everybody else listens,
Everybody wait. Yeah.
and you wait, and then when that person's finished talking, then somebody else talks, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
honestly how I communicate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm serious. I have sat in a room and I watched a group of 4, maybe 5 women talking, and there were 3 conversations going on simultaneously
Yes.
amongst that 4 group of people.
Yes.
My brain was like, this is idiotic, and I would just walk off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, they will swear they all understood.
They all understood.
And later on, guess what I'll hear them doing? So what did she say about so-and-so, so-and-so? The reason that you're asking that question is because you don't know, because you was running your mouth while she was talking.
So you talking.
You know what I mean? I don't care what we're used to. Proof is always in the pudding. Later on,
Yeah.
the root of what's really happening gonna show up, because you're gonna have to revisit that conversation. Why are you gonna revisit it? Because they weren't really listening.
Listen. Yeah. Yeah.
The difference
Yeah.
between hearing somebody and listening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you listen, it promotes understanding. When I hear you, I'm just waiting to respond. I'm not really trying to understand.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a response.
I'm
And
just here.
it's a big difference. There's a big difference, So, but yeah, I mean, I get it. But I think, as Tony said, which he articulated this well. Because I know what my wife is gonna do, I have to say, this is not about you at this moment. This is about her and her feelings. Let's get with her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how you feel about her feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter that her feelings are not really connected to reality right now.
Right.
You already know that if you don't deal with these feelings, you're not going to get to any resolution.
Any resolution.
So let's deal with the feelings. So I take it away from, reality or whatever, and just meet her where she is.
Mm-hmm.
And once I do that, now the conversation can actually move, in my mind, to be fruitful. Because for me, it's all about resolution and change.
Yep.
How are we going to resolve this problem? And how is whatever making you unhappy, how can I change it so you can now be happy? That's all I want.
Claudette made a perfect point that kind of goes along with that. My husband is very calm, and it takes a lot to get his passion going. And as a result, it brings me down because you feel silly yelling on your own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You feel silly yelling on your own. I have to say, everyone knows, my nephew, my buddy, my sidekick, my baby. My nephew is with me. And I always tell Caden that his emotional intelligence at 16 floors me sometimes. I'm like, nephew, I know some grown men that don't communicate the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed Caden has learned this way of dealing with auntie and communicating with auntie. And I'm a little taken aback, but I'm proud at the same time because I can be talking to Caden, I can be telling him something, and if I raise my voice, the brother looks at me and he's kind of like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And his response to me is, auntie, why are you yelling? And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm yelling.
Right.
But I told him the other day, the way he responded to me, and again, I'm noticing a difference in it as he's getting a little bit older. It used to be, he'd come back and have something to say. But now his response is, okay. He'll say, okay. And I told him the other day, literally, I was going in on him about something that he had done. I was going in on him, and he didn't respond the way I expected him to. And I told him later, after I kind of calmed down and realized I was talking to myself and he wasn't really engaging me. I said, Kaden, I said, I want to tell you something. I said, I appreciate the way you just handled that situation. I said, because what you did, you showed me that I need to come at you a different way, bring my tone down, because we're not going to communicate. Nothing is coming across with the way I'm speaking to you. And I said, you have now set a new tone in this household on how we're going to communicate. And I said, young man, that is what a man does. I said, this is going to take you far as you get older in your relationships. I said, but a man should set the tone for how the household, how the conversation, and how it's going to flow. If she's yelling, oh, okay. So it made me step back and check myself. And that's what it should do.
Well,
And that's what it
I
should do.
will say this, Donna. Part of the reason why you step back is because of your personal growth as well.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, all of us haven't achieved a certain level of emotional growth or intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're so accustomed to being dysfunctional
Yeah.
that when somebody's not yelling back with us, we think something's wrong with them.
Yep.
Why are you ignoring me? No, I hear everything you're saying. And so when you stay calm, I've seen people literally, they get more upset the calmer you
Because
are.
you're calm. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
They're like, because let me tell you what's really happening. They're recognizing how crazy they look. And instead of just stopping, their pride won't let them stop.
Won't let them stop.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you recognize that you're the fool here.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of just stopping and waving the white flag, you gonna double down on the ignorance and get even more angry because the person's not joining in on you. And like you said, Kaden just figured out like, wow, that's really unnecessary. So I don't know if I should engage, because if I engage, she might keep going. And let me just
There it is.
Okay, auntie. All
Yep.
right.
There it is.
So
And now, because of your personal growth, you like, oh, he's just looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about what you just said, and you was like, I do sound crazy. Like, why am I yelling? Like, I could have said that totally different.
Totally different.
And he probably would have given me a response, but now he's just looking at me like I'm crazy because I was behaving like somebody was crazy. And he's just looking at me like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's like you said,
so Donna knows that if she ever needs to fill that void and really get it out, she can just call me up and we'll go at it.
That's right, Tony.
Tony said he down for
it. And we'll speak and listen at the same time.
That's right.
And we'll throw in those non-confrontational people's things like, did you hear what I said? Can you repeat? Can you repeat what I said? Yep. And then, oh yeah, okay. Let me. Yeah, this is what you said. Oh yeah, you did hear me. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But you have to know. You have to know when. So it's a balance. I think we're all talking about balance.
Right.
I know that if I was with, I once said, because I've been divorced twice, I said, first wife was white, second wife black. I'm going straight Latino on the third one, right? Paula's from Belize, by the way. Her mom's from Belize.
Man, just don't make it the alien, man. Just don't. I'm about to marry an alien.
Friends, exactly. But Mark, all of my friends told me she will kill you. You will be dead because you guys will be so amped up. She'll end up choking you out. And so I backed off from the Latino thing.
Yeah,
Oh man.
Ended up with
good decision, brother.
With the balancing Paula. So now I'm more mellow. I'm just more. I'm better. according to Jimmy, I'm much better now.
I have to take a second, y'all, to tell Mike hello, Michael hello. Mike is in Panama City, Panama, watching. So
Man,
appreciate it. That's one of my brothers from way back.
what's going on, Mike?
On the beach?
So
Is he on the beach?
you
He
on the
gotta
beach,
be.
Mike?
He gotta be.
Probably. Probably.
Hey, D, read Claudia Brown's response there. Do you see it?
It's called this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No,
Mhm.
no. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it?
that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
And-
called learning the woman you're living with and moving accordingly.
Yeah. And I think when both parties do that, the relationship tends to have balance and it tends to have a equal flow. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mhm.
Everybody feels like they're being heard. Everybody feels like they're being valued.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. That's one of the things that I had to learn. And of course, the saying is you teach people how to treat you.
How to treat you.
And so then I started saying, well, this is what will get a better response out of me.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, what I'm saying is here's the adjustment you need to make.
Yep. Yep.
You know, if I'm willing to make this adjustment for you, here's what I need you to do. And more importantly, here's when you know you have matured emotionally. When it does not matter what they continue to do, you still do what needs to be done for you to be better.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Outstanding.
That's
So
right.
Jimmy, would you say that each of us has a responsibility? Do I have a responsibility to tell Paula who I am or what works for me? Or do I just sit back? Do I sit back and believe that if Paula loves me, she'll figure it out?
Yeah, that's foolish.
What'd you say, Mark? You said what, Mark?
I said a lot of times, depending upon where you're at, you know, this is leading by example.
Right.
Lead by example. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think there should be a point where you let's say set the agenda and be the example.
Yeah, I think you have to voice it, like you said, Mark.
Right.
Voice it first.
Right. By setting
voice it first, and then live it out.
Live it out.
Yeah.
Because I've told you, and then I've set the example. You refuse to adhere to the example, so now some decisions have to be made.
I love that word example.
Yeah. Perfect.
I love that word example. Because I'm not gonna lie, as a woman, that's what you want. You want an example. You want your man to be an example of what he wants you to be to him. Because if he's being that example, he's being that. That's what he's being.
You know what? Have you ever heard the old adage? Whatever it is you want from your spouse, be it first.
Be it first.
Outstanding. The other thing is we have a tendency to tell the other person how they're not acting, what's wrong with them, instead of saying, you know, sweetheart, what I like is this. I really like this. And you make a big deal about it. But we make a big deal about what's wrong.
What's wrong? Yeah.
But we don't make a big deal about what's right.
Well, and also too, you're automatically putting them on the defense if they are anywhere near emotionally immaturely. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because you're blaming them for something that they have no control over. They can't control your desires, right? But when you say, here's what I like, now you've not only informed them of something, but then you can even give them information on how to meet the need. I like this. When you speak to me this kind of way, that gets a better response out of me. See, now you gave them what you desire and you gave them an example of how to carry it out.
Right. So let's back up a little bit, because our topic, right? I'm gonna put this up again, because when I say back up a little bit, we're right at a perfect point. But I want us to hone in on the fact that we all were raised different. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different lifestyles. And now we're coming together and we want to be with one another. Because I hear a lot now, and Mark, I'm sure you hear this a lot, that dating nowadays, being single is rough.
Yeah.
Is rough. Like, and I hear this phrase and I'm like, it's really not that rough. You know what's rough? That people are looking at statements like this and ignoring that they're actually factual.
Mhm.
There is someone who dealt with this when they were a child,
Mhm.
and now they're an adult and they want someone to listen to them. We see the little girl, she obviously did not get the attention, is not getting the attention or the time. Her mom is not taking the time to give her the attention.
Mhm.
And I can guarantee, if not helped or dealt with as an adult, because we're looking at these pictures of children, but we want to come in the scenario that they are now adults, right?
Mhm.
Right.
I guarantee the attention that she did not get as a child, she's starving for it now as an adult,
And she's seeking it
and she's seeking it.
from anywhere. That's why they on social media. That's why they dress scandalously. That's why they do all the things they do to get the attention that they felt they did not get during those informative years of their lives, right?
Mm.
Boys who felt like they were misunderstood or ignored, they become more angry, they become more aggressive, because once they show anger and aggression, then people start to pay attention,
Pay
right?
attention.
So these are all of the habits that and one of the phrases that we use in my community is any childhood unhealed trauma will show up in your adulthood.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Now, here's the problem. People like to leave it there, and they believe that if that person doesn't go back to his or her childhood, they can never be healed.
Right.
That's not true.
Speak on it.
That's not true. And let me explain why that's not true. What if the person that deprived you of all these things, what if they're dead?
Mm-hmm.
You can't
Right.
confront them,
Nope.
right? So you have to make up your mind as an adult that, hey, I need to deal with this on my own, because guess what? They can't fix it anyway.
Right.
But I think the confrontation really is from within. I don't think
You're right.
Right. When people say confront your past, I mean, yes, physically, yeah, they can't do it to your case, but really, technically, it's going back and tapping in from within to confront it, because sometimes we run away from our past.
Absolutely.
Right? So we got it. That it's definitely from within.
Well, not only just confronting it,
but doing
because
something.
going back, reliving it is one thing, right?
Right.
But changing the perspective from which you see it now.
Exactly.
This is I had a conversation with one of my youth students, and he was sharing with me some of his childhood dynamics. And he said, well, I forgiven my mom, but he kept talking. But in everything he said related to his mom, it was clear he hasn't forgiven her. Right?
Right.
And so I allowed him to speak, and then I started asking him questions. I said, so when you say you forgive your mom, I said, why don't you like being with her one-on-one then?
Mm-hmm.
And he paused and he looked at me as if this was the very first time he had to address what I just said. I said, because if you forgave her, you wouldn't be ducking her, especially one-on-one time. I said, you just told me that one of the things that you hated most was that she spent more one-on-one time with your siblings than she did with you. I said, now she's trying to spend one-on-one time with you, and that's the last thing you want to do. I said, so you couldn't have forgiven her. And he's like, oh, you're right. I said, listen, you have to, because you have the opportunity, just share with your mom, hey, here are some of the things that I remember from my childhood. And it really bothered me more than I wanted it to, and more than I thought it did. Right. And give her the opportunity. I said, number one, we have to learn as human beings that all of us are on the same journey, We're just in different locations on the journey,
Different places. That's right.
right?
That's
Like,
right.
I may be at mile marker 433. You may be on mile marker 500. The next person may be on mile marker 220.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We're in different phases of this journey, right? I cannot expect you at mile marker 220 to have the same experience that I'm having up here at 430. That's insane. That's an
right.
unrealistic expectation that I have on somebody, right?
That's
I
right.
have to meet them at 220
At 220.
because I already know what's about to happen between 220 and 436, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm expecting them to know what's going to happen, that's insane. Some people can't give you what they don't have, and sometimes we don't have enough understanding to realize that, hey, that person gave you all they had to give.
Woo, you just
It doesn't matter that they were your parent. It doesn't matter that they were your older sibling. It doesn't matter that they were your older cousin. Sometimes you're going to be more wise than them. Sometimes you're going to be more, emotionally stable than they are. Yeah, we want to believe that they should have been pouring into us, right? Yeah, in a perfect world, maybe that's true. But in reality, they didn't have that to give you.
They didn't
so
have
stop
it to
holding them hostage to that expectation.
It's crazy, Jimmy, because I wrote it down. I said expectations of your spouse, and you just walked right in that door. Hold on one second, y'all, because my girl, hey Corey.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
The young lady that just came on the screen, that is Corey B. Corey B is one of the Mark, how can we describe Corey?
There's no description. She's a little bit of everything.
I heard she was the backbone. I heard she was the backbone.
She the backbone.
It is.
Y'all
better say it right. I was gonna jump in, Corey. You know I was ready. Like, double dutch. I was waiting to see what they was going.
That's our little sister, Tony. So we always messing with her,
Good. Yeah. So I won't be offended when you start messing with her.
No,
I won't take it like
no.
Yeah. Like
I mean, you could join the train now. We
I was
can
getting ready to
put both
say,
y'all in the same.
Don't worry,
Tony,
she gives it as good as she takes it.
I was getting ready to say, Tony, Corey, Tony. There it is.
Hello, Tony.
Hello, Corey. So in my family, you don't give nothing out if you can't take it.
Right.
So if you ever gave anything out as a kid, and then they turned around and gave it back to you, and you started crying, you got whooped.
That's right. You're gonna get in trouble
because you shouldn't have said nothing. So my skin is thick, but I'll probably not say much to Corey until I get to really know her.
Get to know her, then you'll let her have
jump in, and then my confrontationalism.
I'm telling you, put that seatbelt on when you do it, Tony. Put the seatbelt on.
Yeah. She's an educator, by the way, so she's gonna get you with those words. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was Mark that said I didn't get spanked enough. I don't mind getting spanked. Verbally.
Actually, was you getting spanked now? That's why I asked you. When you said you didn't get no spanking, did you get spanked now? Meaning with the one that you were with.
Yeah. But I like a good.
Here we go.
Back and forth. I like a lot of good back and forth. What I was going to say when Jimmy made some great points.
Lyrically, I got you, Tony. Lyrically. Paula says sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. See, there it is.
Oh my God. Now I can't
look, see how it just came out.
First lady has spoken. Let's get Tony out the hot seat.
Now we got to figure out: am I gonna get spanked or I'm not gonna get
spanked? Just keep talking that talk tonight. You'll find out after we all.
That might have been a setup, Paula. That might have been a setup.
It sounds like he wants the spanking.
Been a setup.
That
is hilarious.
Jumping on with what Jimmy was saying, Jimmy made some great points. I think sometimes when we get to the mountaintop, we forget that we're supposed to actually come down and bring others along and show others how to get there.
There you go.
Because sometimes we get so comfortable, man, I made it. They can make it.
Right.
If I did it, they can do it.
They can do it.
And then we just want to sit up there and enjoy the view, when in reality we're supposed to be coming back down and showing and escorting the others up.
I'm
Tony,
standing up. I'm
Tony,
standing up. I'm
not
sorry.
only that,
I'm standing on the mouth. I'm sorry.
people want you to suffer like they did.
Ooh,
Huh.
It's
Wait a
like,
minute.
for me, it's kind of like, I believe in, and this may be the naive part of me, I believe my experiences based on the decisions I made in life, God allowed me to go through them so I can guide and direct people to avoid the headaches that I suffered. I'm
There
not
it
going to
is.
sit back and watch you go through the same thing I'm going through, be like, yeah, I know what they about to do.
That's their problem.
No,
That's
I'm going to
their
tell you, I'm going to warn you. I'm going to tell you, hey, bro, the road is washed out up there. And if you keep going, you're going to fall off that cliff.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to get in trouble. But isn't that what America is about right now?
Absolutely.
Like, hey,
absolutely.
I did it the right way. I did it the way it's supposed to be done. And now you're going to have to do the same thing.
And most of
Why
them
should
are
I
lying.
help you?
Most of them are lying because they didn't do it the right way.
Exactly.
They didn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Exactly.
So let me share with y'all. I had a conversation yesterday, and the gentleman that I was talking to, one of my homeboys, and the thing I love about us as people are our differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the fact that, and I told him what I love about this conversation, because he and I have some deep conversations, and we're on total opposite spectrums.
Mm-hmm.
But I told him what I love about the fact that we can have these conversations is that we can have the conversations. You can say what you're going to say, have your perspective, and I can have mine, and we can still respect one another. That is rare. Like, you fall out with people over stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing he was saying to me, pretty much kind of around what you were saying, Jimmy, like, why am I worried about other people? I'm taking care of mine right here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have nothing to do with them out there. That's not, that's just how I see it. I don't care. And I'm like, well, I'm a bit of the opposite. I feel like in life I used to tell my kids all the time, and I say it all the time, and we know for us that came from the New Jack City era, I am my brother's keeper.
Yeah.
I live by that. I believe that because we are here on this earth with one another, whether we like it or not.
To serve one another.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Donna, piggybacking off what you said, Teresa said something. She said, I agree. I hate when people know you are doing something wrong and stay quiet. Complete turnoff, right?
Yeah.
So Teresa, I'm a person that has to look at both sides of the coin. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let me explain to you why a large percentage of people have decided to stay quiet, because people are too sensitive. They're too much in their feelings now. If you try to share with them, hey, you're going down the wrong path, that's not a good decision, and you could lay it out why what they're doing is wrong. Instead of them saying something along the lines of, you know what, I appreciate you, I did not see it from that perspective, you'll get something like, you can't be judging me, you ain't better than me, you ain't that, and they want to argue. So sometimes it is best to let somebody crack their head upside the wall.
Let them have it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have to look at, and this is what I tell people, one of the things that frustrates me most about relationships, and I'm not talking about just marriages, I'm talking about just interpersonal relationships with people.
Mm-hmm.
People have the audacity to ignore any advice you give them, and the moment the consequences come, they'll go to you. Why you didn't say nothing? Dummy, I've been telling you for 6 months that this was about to happen, but you were hell-bent on doing it. You didn't care what nobody was saying to you. So how do you have the audacity to be mad at me that you're now suffering the consequences from them dumb decisions you were making?
Mm-hmm.
Like, make it make sense.
And that was a part of the conversation yesterday with him. That's why I was saying I love that there still can be that respect for one another's differences.
Mm-hmm.
Because a part of what you said, Jimmy, a part of what he said makes sense to me for
Mhm.
that very reason.
Right.
For that very reason. Sometimes I'm just gonna shut up. I'm not gonna give advice to everybody, or I'm not gonna try to share something with everyone. You got to be able to read the room.
Well, the Bible says, "Don't catch the pearls of swine."
There you go.
Now, I would rather err on the side of caution.
Mhm.
This is me. I know you're gonna reject what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna tell you anyway,
Anyway,
just so you can never say nobody
I
told
didn't
you.
tell you. That's right.
You know that,
But that's your response. But you're being responsible.
right?
You're just
Yeah.
being responsible, saying, "Hey, this is what I'm going to say," and if you take it or leave it. But we
Yep.
do know there are some people that have to touch the fire. There are people that have to touch the fire to know that it's hot.
It's
That
hot.
was me. That was me when I was young and dumb. Oh, I saw the fire burn other people, and some kind of way I convinced myself that wasn't gonna happen to me. And now I'm walking around here with 3rd-degree burns that I got, and I'm like, yeah, that was just dumb as a box of rocks, right?
Right.
But that's society.
But you learn, right?
You
Yeah.
Okay, and we had this conversation on this show one time. We were talking about what's best, wisdom or experience,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody always talks about experience is the best teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. Experience is the most costly teacher. That's why you never forget it,
Right.
because it cost you the most.
Right.
Mhm.
Wisdom is the best teacher. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know what? I'm gonna look at what Tony did in this situation. I'm gonna look at what Donna did in this situation. I'm gonna look at what Corey did in this situation, and all 3 of them failed. Why would I believe that I should do what they did and gonna get a different result? That would just wisdom would say, "Nah, I'm gonna pass on that one."
Yeah, yeah. Cause is that not a part of the intro every Thursday? I've had some experiences,
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
good, some good, and you can take that and you can look at it and be like, I'm gonna think about what Donna said. That makes sense. Or, nah, yeah,
let me tell
yeah,
y'all something. I tell people this: I don't care what we believe, life will always show you what's true.
yep. Regardless of what you do,
You can lie to yourself all you want. Life is going to prove to you if your decisions were good or if they were bad.
man.
And I
That's right.
think sometimes because we don't get the immediate response, we
Mhm.
think we made a good decision. But all you have to do every now and again is just stop and reflect. You'll understand why you're suffering what you're suffering now.
Live a little. Live a
Man,
little.
come on now. Listen, I'll be 56 next month. I say this all the time. At 56, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's unnecessary pain. That's unnecessary frustration.
Right.
I'm going to avoid that at all costs. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
I don't care. I don't even care to win anymore.
Right.
Because here's the thing. It's not even about me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose because you didn't listen to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Well, and so then that's where we get to most men love peace. Peace is very important to us.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we do avoid things because it's easier to enjoy the peace than to get that win. I think as you get older, peace is more important than winning.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right about that.
So touching on let's touch on the point of peace, and I get it because believe it or not, gentlemen, we love peace as well.
Who is we?
Women.
Women.
It's different. It's different, though.
It's different.
That's another level.
Look at you. What?
That's another level.
It's different. Let's go back into the conversation earlier now, right? So the understanding of the differences is what makes you men step back and listen and be like, okay, that don't make sense to me. But if it means something to her, to get to that point of peace. So the way y'all get to that point of peace is kind of like Yep, I'm done with that. Yep. I heard enough. That's it. We good. That how we sometimes, some of us, some women, and I'm not even gonna say on a necessarily a negative level, how we get to that is because we want to express what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and what's happening. Y'all said it. It may not make sense to you all, but this is how we're getting to our point of peace. So
But it's how you communicate.
It doesn't
I
even
got
make sense to God sometimes.
Right.
Y'all
I
You
just
got it.
want to
Yeah.
talk,
Yeah.
and we just have to just go, okay.
Yeah, that's it. It's
yeah,
all in how you do it. It's all in tone. I mean, it's
yeah.
okay. And we mean by peaceful. It's okay to have a quiet storm. For me, a quiet
Mhm.
storm is okay, meaning that you can say it but at a certain tone. For me, when it starts to kind of get like thunder and lightning out there, you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's time to for me. That's when I'll
Thunder.
listen. I'm
Bring me
not.
the thunder and lightning.
So yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. Mark, I'm gonna
Bring
go
it
ahead
to
and
me.
finish your thought, but we're
No,
gonna talk
that's it.
about that.
About what? What we talking about?
We're talking about you said the thunder and the lightning,
Yeah,
right?
the bullets, the rounds, y'all. Some women shoot.
Got you,
You know,
got you.
it's
It's
a lot.
definitely in got you. It's definitely in what you say, how you say it. I understand that. I understand that, right? It's how you say it. And that goes both ways. Even if y'all are calm and y'all say, what's the phrase that women cannot stand, Corey?
Calm
Somebody
down.
said it.
Well, are you done?
Are you
Either
done?
are you done
Um,
or
calm
what's
down.
the
No,
other one?
it's I know what you're talking about. It's
Yeah,
dang, I forgot. I know exactly.
yeah.
Calm down. Calm
Get out
down.
your
Calm
feelings.
down.
Calm
Oh,
That's what I
down.
said.
Yeah, calm down. Yeah,
Calm
Calm
down.
down.
Calm down.
yeah, that's
Right.
the one.
Don't ever say that to me.
Yeah.
Don't ever say that to
that
Woo!
me.
doesn't work for anyone.
Don't
That
ever
doesn't work
Yeah.
for
say that.
anyone,
Know
but
why
women
it
Yeah.
get
doesn't
stuck
work?
with it. But
It
Know why it
doesn't
doesn't
work for
work?
anyone, but yet women tend to
Lose
be,
it.
or more pointed out to be more triggered by that phrase. And like I was saying, even if it comes calm, it's the it has to be in the delivery. It
It's
has
a
to be in
delivery.
delivery. It
Yeah,
has to be in delivery.
I,
What
I,
what you got, Jimmy? What was you
I
gonna say?
teach so differently from that
Okay.
because that's a level of immaturity,
Uh-huh.
Uh,
right? Um, I know in a perfect world we would love for everything to be laid out on a bed of roses, and now when we require that unrealistic expectation is usually the person that's doing the most violating.
When you say
okay.
we, who is we?
Yeah.
You're
Well,
saying
In general,
clarify.
people in
in
general.
general.
The
Gotcha.
people who are requiring everything to be said with the right tone and the right
Okay.
body language
oh,
and the right,
woo,
and right time
yeah.
and the right,
Following you.
they're
Okay.
usually the person that's looking for any excuse not to deal with their behavior in said problem. So there is no perfect way for you to bring up something you need to address about them. They're going to
Mhm.
shoot it down.
You
They're
keep
going to say
walking
it's
in
your
these doors
tone. They're
that
going to say it's the timing. They're going to say it's your facial expression. They're going to say,
No,
right?
but Jimmy, I'm gonna definitely have to disagree with you on that. I'm gonna say
Okay.
reason why I'm gonna say that is because everything don't work for everybody, right? Everything doesn't work for everybody.
No, that's undeniable. But
Okay,
let
right.
me finish what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Here's the deal. When we can get to a point where we recognize, say for instance, Donna, if you and I are in a relationship, and I have told you a number of times, Donna, when you do this, that bothers me.
mm-hmm.
And you keep
Keep
doing it.
doing it.
And now I get a little upset. I raise my voice. Now you decide, well, I'm not talking because you're raising your voice.
Yep.
Well, so let me make sure I'm understanding here. So I don't have the right to be upset now. That's what you're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
You can do whatever you want to do. You can violate all of the boundaries that I've set for you. But the moment I dare be, hurt or upset about something you're doing, now you can dismiss your behavior because I'm upset now.
Right. Right.
Emotional manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That is. That's emotional manipulation, right? If I have been doing something and I've been doing it habitually, that's
Mm-hmm.
ticking my wife off, the mature Jimmy has to say, yeah, babe, you know, And her presentation is not the thing. The truth of the matter is the real
Is the
issue.
truth, right?
The truth is the real
truth
issue.
is the issue.
You have pushed a person to a point where they feel now they have to react a certain kind of way to get your attention.
Mm-hmm.
You keep dismissing your behavior and focusing on their response to you. You're still missing the point. You're still not accepting your responsibility in what's really being spoken about. Because you don't,
Okay.
here's the reality. You're not trying to change. So you're trying to divert the attention from your behavior to their reaction to your behavior.
Okay. Let's
So
see what
you're-
Mark.
Yeah,
let's see what
you're
Mark-
not
Yeah,
really dealing with it.
I'm trying to understand where we at. So here's the thing. So I guess the statement that was made was, while communicating to Marquette Weaver, who
Mhm.
has not have caused a woman to feel a certain kind of way. Just saying in general, sometimes when messages need to be relayed, for me, when there's a tone of a loud tone, arguing, cussing, or whatever, for me, I'm not going to address it, right? And I'm not going to address it because that doesn't work for me, right? Now, as far as what I'm gathering, what you were saying, as far as like addressing the issue that put someone there, yes, I can agree. But as far as just normal communication, just anything that we may or may not disagree, I feel tone is important to me.
No, I agree with you there, Mark.
Oh yeah,
That's
totally agree. with
that
you.
was my
Yeah.
point.
No.
Yeah.
We're talking about two different scenarios.
Right. I
talking
was
about
just
two different
addressing
scenarios.
that side as far as
Yeah,
Some
Mark, I get
people-
it. Totally
some-
agree with what you're
some
saying.
people
Tone.
learned how to communicate aggressively.
right.
That's their normal pattern of behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Mark is saying that's not my pattern of behavior. I don't do all that yelling. I don't do all of that, right? So the best way for me to teach you how to treat me is when you first do it, I'm going to verbally say, hey, that's not how I communicate,
Yep.
right? Because I have not done anything wrong, right? I haven't violated anything. We just don't agree here. And your normal way of communicating is yelling and fussing and screaming. I can't deal with that, right? So this person heard you. They may even understood you, but their patterns of behavior says that they're not going to change overnight. So fast forward a week, they do it again. And this time you don't verbally say anything. You just look at them. You know, sort of like Caden did his auntie. Just look at him, right? And what you're really trying to do is you're trying to trigger a memory. Because
Yeah.
if you don't engage at some point, even a fool will start to say, I kind of look crazy. Now
Yeah.
we're gonna have either a person that's gonna self-reflect and say, oh, maybe I need to calm down, or we're gonna have a person that's gonna double down and keep doing it. And then at that point, I know that that's not the right person to be in my life.
Yeah, there it is. That,
You know what I'm
that
saying?
part,
Like, okay. Because
Yeah.
see, listen, it is not our job. It is not our job in a relationship to fix a broken person.
mm-hmm.
That's God's job. And if some people like being broken,
And
I was telling my wife on the 18th of July will be 22 years that I have been a relationship coach. In 22 years of doing this, I have met a lot of people who have embraced being broken because they've gotten so much attention from their brokenness that they're not trying to be healed. They get more attention being broken. So when you get them to that crossroad of, okay, so what we gonna do now? They will always say, stay where I am because I'm enjoying this attention. As a matter of fact, the only reason I'm calling you is because you're giving me some attention right now.
Some attention. Yeah.
And the moment that I recognize that that's what's happening, I ask the so what now questions. So what are you going to do differently now?
Yeah.
And in so many words, they'll tell you nothing because they're not trying to heal, right? So I agree with Mark from the standpoint of, yeah, if that's just your normal behavior, no, I can't deal with that. However, there's another dynamic. The other dynamic is one person has been violating something. You know what I'm saying? And now that other person's upset. The violator tends to always focus on something that is not the point so they don't have to deal with what the
What
person
the
is
point
complaining
actually
about.
is.
You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we have to be sure, we have to make sure that we're not that person. We
Mhm.
can't, we have to be mature enough to say, yes, I was wrong. I have been doing this incorrectly. You have told me that 1,000 times. Let me now be mature enough to kind of bask in this moment, sit in this moment and say, yeah, I need to make a decision to change because I'm hurting you.
Right.
And I
Right.
see that it's frustrating you. And I don't want you frustrated. I don't want you frustrated more than I'm comfortable not making a change.
Right. Right. So we have to take those childhood experiences, those things that formed us, and and look at them and realize they're not serving us at all.
They never have.
They're not serving us. They're not serving us in our relationships when we're trying to grow and we're trying to prove to someone and show to someone that we care about them. How do you care about someone and really show that if you're not addressing your issues that you want them to what? Ignore? Accept? It's so all the scenarios, the pictures that I showed, and we come to a breaking point where that's obviously what's going to happen. And truth be told, I would say based on what we're talking about and not making a difference, that's what should happen. That's really what should happen right there. You're running from the issues and the things that how the picture's showing that broke your heart, whether it came from childhood or whatever. You know, I'm not saying to ignore that people have dealt with some things and have some traumas and have some issues and problems.
Mhm.
Because the first thing you have to do, if you're going to an AA meeting, the first thing you have to do is what? Admit that you are
Have
alcoholic.
a
There
drink.
is a
Have
problem.
a drink. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You
have a
have
drink.
to show and say that there is a problem
Mhm.
because the problem does exist. So unless you say the problem does exist, as opposed to running from it, nothing is going to ever change.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing will
That
ever
that is
change.
that's one of my pet peeves. If you never admit
Ooh.
something's wrong, nothing will ever change.
Yep. Yep.
And that's
But you know what
and
that meant?
Jimmy,
But you know what? That's the thing about it when it says, Michael Jackson, the man in the mirror, man, it's so factual. Now you really think about it. I grew up young when that song came out, but now as a grown ass man, like that message alone should
Because you understand it now.
ring. Yeah, run center.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything starts with self. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
How you got there sometimes may not be in your control, but how to get over it, you have a lot to do with it.
That's right.
That's
You have a
right.
lot to do with it. And I
That's
think
right.
sometimes we have grown up in a culture where we have learned to blame things outside of ourselves.
That's right.
Yep.
If it's good, it's God. If it's good, it's the devil, right? And a lot of times it's our actions that really put us, and we don't really try to go back and reprogram our way of doing things.
Mhm.
Yeah, we love to look externally for things we should be looking internally for.
Internally for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tony, you were gonna make a point.
the only point I was going to make is, and that's why it's important that sometimes we need professional help,
There you
Amen.
go.
because a lot of times we're looking at the person, we're telling the person, and we're thinking because we're telling them they should get it. But
Mm.
they have no idea what's really the issue, because we're dealing with symptoms,
Mhm.
but we're not dealing with the root cause.
Mhm.
And a lot of us have generational curses that have been passed on through our DNA, and we need professional help to deal with those types of things. Yes, God can do all things, okay?
Mhm.
But sometimes God makes a professional available to you
Yep.
so that you can deal with things that you didn't have the foggiest idea was even happening,
Yeah.
until the professional can show you oh, this is what this is, and then you can deal with it, deal with the root cause, and solve it. So,
Tony, man, man, kudos to that, because, and I'll use me as an example. You know, everybody knows that know me know that I served in the military. I wasn't aware that I was dealing with PTSD. I wasn't. It took me at 35 years old. I went back to college, and my psychology professor, he and I just hit it off the first day of class because some questions that I asked. And I'm an adult student, so you know, we forged a relationship. And within the first 6 to 7 months, through some conversations, he said, "You mind if I tell you something?" And I was like, "No, what?" He was like, "Are you aware that you have PTSD?" Now I was like, "Dude, I don't know during PTSD. Like, what are you talking about?" You know what I'm saying? He was like, "No." He's like, "No, you do." He said, "I bet you believe that you don't have PTSD because you're not acting like
the extreme
people
right.
are chasing you." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, because you know, I'm not hearing voices. And he said, "No." He said, "But you are showing other symptoms of PTSD." And I said, "Like what?" He said, "How you respond to things." He said, "You respond to things with a vigilance that's not normal for the conditions that you currently live in."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Wait a minute.
because when he said it,
it stung.
When he said it, I knew what he said made sense, but I needed him to give me an example to verify what I thought he was talking about. And I said, "Give me an example." And he gave me like 5 examples. And I said, "Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, you might be on to something." I said, "Okay." And literally he said, "We can talk if you want." Because I wasn't aware that at that time he was also working for the government. And so I started talking with him. I'm telling you this story because there are sometimes we're not aware that we're dealing with certain issues. But the key is when it's brought to your attention, what is your natural default? Is it to reject it? Even in the face of examples and proof, or is it your natural default to consider it? You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes our natural default is to reject it.
Corey, can you do me a favor? Can you look PTSD up? Yep.
It's spelled PTS.
Mark, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Had to help out.
It's definitely important to do this because I'm I'm a military brat. I'm a vet as well. I know Tony is. So I want to go outside the box a little bit with that phrase because the majority of the time people hear it, they think military, they think war, they think this is why I want Corey to give us some backdrop on PTSD.
All right, here's a quick overview. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a mental health condition that's caused by an extremely stressful or terrifying event, either being a part of it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, and uncontrollable thoughts about the event.
And does it say military only?
Thank you. You just took it out.
Military is not even mentioned.
It's not even mentioned, right?
Not even mentioned.
So people don't realize that sometimes their childhood met all those requirements.
That's right. Go ahead.
Some people don't realize that their workplaces met all of those requirements. Sometimes people don't realize that your marriage and your relationship meets most of those requirements. And so when you see somebody respond out of the norm, the first thing you should do rather than react to their response is try to figure out where the response came from. What was the trigger? Let me tell you, the one question most people hate is why. What happened? What happened? And guys, and I say this with all love and respect, because I am a problem solver. I don't deal with instances in a vacuum. I look at the whole pie, right?
The whole thing. That's right.
When I was a police officer, I'll never forget.
Damn, Timmy,
I roll up.
Not done.
I roll up to a house.
10 job man.
10 job.
So when you get out in the military, it's natural for most of us to go into law enforcement. But you go up to a domestic dispute, and you see the lady hitting the guy, and back in the day before the laws changed, all she had to do was say he hit her, and he's going to jail. Well, within my first year, the law changed, and now I can based on what I'm witnessing, I can determine who's going to jail, right? So what I discovered was a lot of times women were the aggressors, but they played the victim the moment the police officers came up, right? And so when we started arresting women, all of a sudden,
it went down.
The world was like, what is going on? Why is she going to jail? She was the one doing the hitting.
Yeah.
He never put his hands on her. She just was pissed off about something he said or something he did. And she was the aggressor. In any scenario, the first person that hits someone, physically contacts someone, is the person that's charged with assault. If a person defends themselves, that's called self-defense.
Self-defense.
But whenever it was a situation between a man and a woman, the man could never be in self-defense mode because it was a woman. He was always the offender.
You got to run.
When the laws gave us police officers the discretion to really investigate that, and we start arresting the right person, all of a sudden now society was like, oh, why is she going to jail? Because she was the aggressor, right? I'm saying this to say that sometimes we are the aggressor, but we want to act like the victim once things are,
once the consequences come around.
Once the consequences come around, because we don't want to face those consequences. We don't want to face the consequences. We always have to look like the victim. We always have to look like the victim. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, guys, listen, all you have to do is study patterns of behavior. They never lie to you.
Say that again. Study what?
Patterns of behavior.
Patterns of behavior.
Patterns of behavior is a direct reflection of thought processes. And they never lie.
Right.
I will watch what you do, and I can clearly tell you what you're thinking. And I can probably predict your next move.
What's coming? That's right.
Because we all have patterns.
That's right.
And all you have to do is watch long enough. But we like to listen. I mean, we like to listen to people talk. I would prefer to observe you first. Because see, usually what you say and what you do don't marry.
Don't match up. Yeah.
So, Jimmy, you would say in a dating scenario, you need to have enough time to where you can actually witness.
Thank you, Tony.
Those behaviors.
Yeah.
So that you don't end up getting married and then finding out, this person changed. Nope, they didn't change.
They didn't change.
They were the same.
That is who they were.
Yeah, that's why.
Tony, an old lady told me, if you don't date a person through 4 seasons, you're screwing yourself.
Yeah. What'd you say, Mark? That's why.
I said that's why. Like everything mean what they mean. So basically, dating does mean data. You're gathering information before you start courting. That's what it means.
Say that again. Say that again.
I say dating, date, or the word date means data. You collect the information for you to figure out will you be courting before marriage.
Going to the next level.
That's all you're doing. Gathering information.
Well, that's what it should be then.
Right.
It's definitely not that.
Well, it's not that, but I think one of the reasons why it's not that is because people don't understand what it is.
What?
You know what I
Right.
mean?
They're not patient. They don't
They're
have
not,
Right.
patience.
they're not
They don't.
patient. They don't understand that.
They want what they want.
They say behavior patterns definitely will give you an idea, but a lot of times, sometimes when a lot of people date, they date from a deficit, and so they see these things and they see them and they ignore them because they're yearning for whatever it is they're trying to get out for them.
Mark,
so
you just said a mouthful there, brother.
Ignoring those red flags.
No,
Exactly.
he said a mouthful there. People are dating from a deficit.
Mm.
In other words, people are usually dating to get some needs met that they can't meet for themselves.
Right.
Woo.
The other thing is there's some awfully good counterfeits out there.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
I mean, we're not talking about, oh, that's obvious. That's a red flag. We're talking about people who have no red flags.
No.
That's how good of a counterfeit they are.
Tony, they have the red flags. We just ignore them.
Just ignore them.
Well,
they there.
And let me tell you why we ignore them.
Some are good.
No. I don't. I'm not disagreeing with you that some are not good.
No, I would agree with you. We don't study
red
flags.
Well, we're not studying the red flags because usually the good ones master meeting your needs.
Yeah.
Because we're all they reckon. Okay, so let me, and I'm gonna use this analogy because I think we'll understand it.
Yeah.
We all know what grooming is, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A person that grooms someone is able to groom you because they identify what your weaknesses are early. And so they meet those needs and you fall for it because you're not even aware that they're love bombing you for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's what it is in these relationships. If I'm already going into the relationship feeling like, I'm not worthy of love and I'm not worthy of this, that's how I'm gonna get treated in the relationship. At first, that person's gonna give me everything I think I need. They're gonna give me all the affirmation, they're gonna give me all the this and all of that. And they pile it on at first, right? And they get you to fall emotionally, and then they show you who they are. Why can they do it so rapidly? Because you did not slow the process down. You were so enamored by getting your needs met that you didn't take the time to sit back and go, why would this person be doing it to this degree this early?
This early. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You did not take the time because you're still stuck in a childhood mentality. You're finally getting what you've always wanted.
What you want.
For instance, if a child who loves candy and their mother ration candy out to them and you give that child a bag of candy, that child will be sick.
They're going in.
They will be sick and they will have a bunch of cavities by the time they're finished with that bag because they have no self-control. That's a desire that they had, and you gave them everything they wanted at one time. They don't even care what your red flags are. They don't care. Like, man, I got this bag of candy. I got everything I've ever wanted. I don't even care what's the source of this, what's the purpose of this. I'm getting what I want, right? And by the time the red flags are unavoidable, then all of a sudden there's a problem. Like, no, you set yourself up for that danger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
So Mark hit the nail on the head. People are dating from a deficit. Most people are not dating for love. Most people are dating for security and convenience and social status and financial stability. They're not dating for love.
Which is why it's so important to address these childhood situations
all the time.
It's so important to address the childhood situations because they lead right to what Jimmy and what everyone is saying. They lead to that. They lead to failed relationships because you've gone in and you've ignored and you just. And I have to be honest, I've dealt with 2 relationships like that, which is why I realized, and I had to go sit on somebody's couch. I had to revamp how I was looking at things and realize why I was looking at things My PTSD came way before I entered the military, but I didn't recognize it until it was quote unquote too late. But it's never too late
to heal.
Right.
To heal.
Right.
It is never too late.
Hey Donna, real quick. I remember when this Jimmy made a good point, and I'm gonna even paint it even more clear. So Jimmy, you used the candy, right? So when you use the candy example, one thing I thought about is that, remember they used to lure kids to like strangers used to lure kids with candy, right?
That's right.
So the stranger, just using for the dating analogy, the stranger would be the person you just met, and if they're giving you a whole bunch of candy, love bombing, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna end up in the back of a van. Told it off somewhere else. So yeah, too much candy,
physically and emotionally.
And emotionally, right.
Yeah.
Especially from the emotional, was it the love bombing? Though I thought about that analogy when you said that. So
that is why you have to know your worth, because if you do, you won't be easily manipulated or fooled. Yeah.
Ooh, Claudia, there is a lot of truth to what you just said. There is a lot of truth to what you just said. But you got to know it's two sides to every coin.
Yep.
And this is the part of that truth that a lot of us try to avoid.
Yep.
A lot of times we misassign our worth at the period of time in life we're dealing with. What do I mean by that? There are certain points of our lives where we don't deserve a good person because we're not a good person at that time. We will destroy a good person when we're in that season of our lives.
Right.
Where we're reckless. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us
come on, Jimmy.
A lot of us keep talking about, our worth. Well, what is your worth in this moment? You know what I'm saying? Like in this moment in time, are you thinking and behaving in a manner that would suggest that you are deserving of all of those things your mouth says you're deserving of? Does your thought processes and your actions dictate that you are worth all this stuff that you say you're worth? And in most cases, if we're honest, more of us have done more damage to other people because we were unhealed. You know what I'm saying? We will damage people when we're not healed. We will hurt people. You know what I'm saying?
People hurt people.
Yep, age-old adage.
Here's the part that we don't understand. You will reap what you sow. In other words, that hurt that you cause somebody, you just started the wheel in motions for, we like to call it karma, right? You've just set the wheels in motion for you to receive that consequence for that action or those actions that you have because of the way you think, which manifested in the way that you behave. You know what I'm saying? So I do believe that as a human being, all of us on some level deserve love, respect, and honor. However, it's to the degree that you're willing to give and accept it.
Right.
And that's the part of our personal responsibility we don't like to address.
Yep. And to the degree of admitting
yourself, why you expect somebody else to respect you?
Yeah. And to the degree of realizing and admitting, I did some stuff. I have some work to do. So let me stop jumping in this thing like I'm prize gold and everybody needs to, especially when you move to a new person and things are not looking the way you think it should. You better think back. Just because it's a new person doesn't mean it's a new you or a new you. And I'm doing the work.
People say that all the time. I'm doing the work.
I'm doing the work.
Hey, but you know what though?
I've done the work.
You know what? You can almost equate how social media operates, right? Social media operates off the backs of people's demise, right? And so what fuels that, what makes it what it is the fact that a lot of people that even comment on them, they comment on that because they're trying to elevate themselves, right? Because they're at a low space, right? So they want to point out somebody else's low space, right, to make them feel better, so they're not easy or have to go back and correct their own issues and problems. So I would say our society, especially based on social media, because what feeds that I can't even say the word. Y'all don't
Algorithm.
There you go. The algebra.
Algorithm.
The algorithm. You know what I mean? The algebra and the algae.
The arithmetic.
Math about it.
Arithmetic.
Right. What feeds that is the negative is negativity, right?
See, Mark, that made me think about something else Donna said.
What's that?
Donna said women like peace too.
Right.
We do like peace.
Why y'all always looking at drama then?
Right.
We do like.
Hold on, right.
What? How Mark said? Some, but not all.
Hold on, time out. Jimmy, say it again, Jimmy. Say it again.
If y'all like peace, you wouldn't be entertained by a lot of drama.
Right.
Let me tell y'all something.
Drama is another person's peace.
Yeah, okay. No, that's called dysfunction.
Right. Hey, Donald, before you say something, real quick. I'm sorry, Donald. I'm sorry. I gotta say this. I'm gonna be quiet because you can't skim over that. Because there's a statistic that show that all the mysteries, the sexual whatever it is, dating, whatever that is, right?
Reality
TV are women.
Oh,
yeah.
Reality are women.
The books, the romance.
Yeah. No. Not only the books, anything dealing with drama, anything dealing with drama, things that are just crazy. Women are number one in consuming it, right? But then they say we like peace. How is it possible? Those two things cannot coexist. You cannot be a person that absorbs a lot of drama and then produce peace.
Right, it don't work like that, Donna.
It does not.
Where you say that word right there, Donna? No, that goes for anybody.
No, I agree with you.
What did you say, Corey?
I was going to say, in situations like this, I was taught years ago, you can be right or you can be happy. Right now, I'm choosing to be happy. Go ahead and be right, Jimmy. Go ahead and be right, Mark.
Okay, hold on, time out.
It's not even us. The data, it's not Jimmy. Actually says that. The research says that. This is not us.
Yeah, but we can't just land on the thought, fellas, that women don't like peace.
Why not?
Women don't want peace.
Why we can't if the data says it does?
We can't land
if the research says it does. I mean, why we can't?
She can't say that. She can't say that about that.
No, because I'm gonna say why.
That's why they hang around us.
We said earlier. We said earlier, right? Mm-hmm. We handle things in different ways. Men tend to be more logical, correct?
Okay.
Men tend to be more logical. Women tend to be more emotional.
Okay.
And we have to try to we have to give an understanding. Not saying an understanding to bad behavior on either end,
okay,
but we have to give an understanding to why that is. Why do we deal more emotionally than you all do? Why do we come at things more emotionally than you all do? Some, but not all.
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
It's easier to deal with the feelings than to change.
So you're still landing on the point that women.
But hold on. The reason why God created man and woman was for the balance. Because if the man doesn't have the woman for the nurturing, the love, right? Because when you look at what men need versus what women need, right? Mm-hmm. We're always talking about respect. Respect is a big thing. Now, people get disrespected for the smallest, littlest thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, you disrespected me. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to come from a more emotional feeling side. Do you know when I'm being myself and you say I'm being disrespectful, that's disrespectful to me. When you can't accept me for who I am, and I have to be what you are the majority of the time, that's disrespectful. That's disrespect. Mm-hmm. But we see things differently, but that's why we come together, because there's more of an understanding and balance. I mean,
Hey, so Don, I'm gonna throw you a bone, Don. I'm happy. I think a great response. I'm just gonna be, in my opinion, as your
Mhm.
big brother.
Mhm.
I think I'm older than you. I think, but anyway, I would probably say a good response would have been probably, we want peace when it comes to your security, right? The security that we provide as men will give you the peace that you want. That type of peace, though. You want to make sure that you're well taken care of. That would be the peace that you guys,
Mark, look at Corey's facial
that's the
expression.
peace.
Yeah,
You
'cause
want, so you
my
do
wife,
want peace. So you
my
do
wife
want peace
wants
too as
peace.
well. In that, you want peace in that you do, that you're provided for.
so
In
so
security.
but I have to say this. I understand what you gentlemen are saying, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, what each one of you who all have said at some point in this conversation is, we have to understand both sides. We have to understand each other.
Mhm.
You all want things as men. You all want, in this line of saying peace, y'all want it the way y'all need it, y'all want it, peace, right? In the line of saying it as well, as women, that's what we want as well. But this is the thing. We come about it in different ways. So as long as it's done with respect, I'm not saying come out your mouth, be all loud and this and this and that. I myself looks at a woman like that cross-eyed at myself. You got to be loud and cursing and all this and that. I look
Wrong.
cross-eyed at it at myself.
Loud and
But
wrong.
if she is like, for instance, Tony and I were expressing, we're very expressive.
Mhm.
We come from that. Our households, we don't see that as a problem.
Right.
As long as we come at that thing being respectful, it doesn't mean because I didn't when you said nope, let's stop talking, and I still have these things that I want to say and I need to say to help me as well. What is the problem?
Thank you for asking that question. You
Mm-hmm.
said something that's key.
Uh-huh.
You said something I want to say and I need to say for me.
Okay.
No, that's what you said. But hold on.
Yeah, that is what I said. Let me
Right.
clarify.
Well,
When
no,
I-
no,
let me,
No, I heard it. I heard it.
let me
Yeah.
dare to make this statement.
yeah.
What you just said is the truth. Because 9 times out of 10, that's who it's about. So, but what's happening is if the other person is saying, hey, I'm triggered right now.
No, I get that. No,
But
I'm
listen,
not over.
listen though.
Yeah.
But if you're not mature enough to say, he just warned me and said he's triggered,
No, I
let
understand
me
that.
stop.
No, I understand that.
that.
No,
Right?
I understand what you're
Or
saying, Jimmy.
he
I'm not.
says, I'm triggered right now, and he's too immature to say, you know what, let me stop. Because here's what conventional wisdom
Okay.
says. Here's what conventional wisdom says. At the moment a person feels flooded or triggered, and they are mature enough to inform you, okay, I'm
You should stop.
flooded, I'm triggered. Let's kill this conversation right now. But if I think what I need to say is so important that I keep going down this rabbit hole that I just been told Claymore mines are on, I can't get mad once the Claymore mines set off.
Okay, but I have to correct.
No,
I have to
I disagree.
correct you, Jimmy. Let me
I
explain what
disagree.
I'm saying. I never said go beyond someone's tolerance when they're triggered. That's not what I said.
I know that. I know you didn't say that, but here's what I'm saying. Here's what you did say.
Mhm.
You said that when I say what I want to say or need to say for me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That means if that person says I'm done, but you still feel you got more to say, but listen, because this is what's really happening in real.
I got you.
What's happening in real time is that you have not resolved in your head and heart that you said everything you need to say. So you're not even concerned with the impact that's happening, and I'm not talking about just a woman, I'm saying this can go both ways. If you're not concerned with the impact that's taking place, like in other words, you're not reading the room.
But Jimmy, that's not what I'm saying at all.
I know that's not the words that you're using,
right.
but
that's
you
not
said
what
it
I'm
in your
even
phrase.
implying at all.
So what we're really talking about is selflessness versus selfishness.
Right.
But let me just say this. The one that cannot contain, the one that has limits, should the one that has limits always limit the one that needs to express more? Like when does the other person that needs to express more say to the person that has limits, dude, come on, man,
expand your abilities?
Really? You can't suck it up? This is important to me.
Right.
No, sit there and truly listen and be concerned about me. Can you be selfless too?
No,
Can we both be selfless?
Wait. You get him?
Can we both be selfless?
That's what I'm saying.
No, but I'm gonna
That's
answer
exactly what I'm saying.
When I say I get him, I understand what he's saying.
Right.
So let me give you an analogy so I can express the response I'm going to give to what Tony said.
Okay.
If I'm a 12th grader and I'm talking about geometry to a first grader who just learned 1 + 1, and I'm talking to this kid in a 12th grade tone about something that kid cannot understand, that kid is going to be flooded.
Correct.
I need to finish telling you what I'm saying about this geometry problem, and this kid is going, I don't understand. If you know that I don't understand, why are you imposing this on me? I can't handle this information.
Help me.
I don't get that information. Now
help me to understand.
Here's what we have to, and this is a delicate balance, right? This is a delicate balance.
It is.
I believe
it is.
I believe we have to sometimes go beyond. Okay, let me say it like this. I think sometimes we assume people have more
capacity,
emotional intelligence, or mental capacity than they really do. And no matter how many red flags they show us to tell us that they have not met the level that we want to put them at, we will keep trying to force them at that level. And we will get responses all the time that tell us they're not there. And we don't have the capacity to rewind and say, let me do this from another perspective.
Right.
Because we only know one way to do it, because that's the only way that we've known how to do it.
Right.
In other words, we have to meet people where they are. I'm not saying you have to continually get to a point where your words are suppressed, your emotions are suppressed. You have to learn a new way to express your emotions. And usually it's in the form of asking questions and not making statements. Questions are less offensive when they are posed correctly than statements are. Statements will normally put people on defense. So if I'm talking to Donna and Donna is clearly not receiving what I'm saying, but this really means something to me, here's the first thing I'm going to say to Donna. Donna, let me ask you a question, sweetheart. What would be a good time to talk to you about this?
That's it. That's the key. The key is timing.
So now Donna has the ball in her court now. Now Donna has to say, here is the best time. Okay, Donna, that's the best time. So let's chill this out, because last thing I want to do is make this an argument, because all I want to do is get you to understand. Okay, bet. Now, said time comes that Donna said is the best time to talk, right? Now, instead of me going in, now let me go back to what I was saying. What I was saying was blah, blah. So I'm going to say, babe, do you believe that we should be in a relationship where if something is bothering me, I don't have the ability to share it with, if something you're doing is bothering me, and I don't have the ability to tell you about it without it becoming an argument? Do you believe that's the type of relationship we should be in? Well, no, I don't believe it. Okay, great. So can I share with you something that's happening in the relationship that's truly bothering me?
But
Right?
how does that bring peace? That sounds like a setup to me.
So
That sounds like a
silence.
loaded question.
So silence is an argument.
Listen, here's the deal.
Silence is an argument.
It's not a
Now
setup.
hear that. No, hear that.
You said silence is an argument.
Silence is an argument. See, people who go silent think, oh, they think it's arguing is a bad thing.
Exactly.
Because in their minds, they don't want to deal with the communication. So they create in their minds that arguing or talking loud or doing this or doing that is
or
bad.
Disagreements in general.
It's bad.
Exactly.
And the way I do things is the right way to do things. So if we focus on the other person, if we're always focusing on the other person, but now both have to be doing it in a relationship, then that's where you have the balance. Because I don't want to do anything that bothers my wife who's introverted. She's not like me. And I don't want her to be like me because she balances me.
Yeah.
So what I have to do is I have to be careful of timing. When I want to express myself, I do what Jimmy said. Okay, Paula, what would be a good time? The best time for Paula is when she's recharged, not when she's depleted. And I had to learn that, but it took me time to learn that, but I had to study temperaments. And I had to understand temperaments to know this is my wife. My wife is this way. I'm trying to change her, but that's not work. That's not going to work because that's not who she is. God did not create her to be that way. So it works both ways. But like I said earlier, it's easier for the one that's quiet and wants peace, that's non-confrontational, to say that the other person is wrong. But there's no real wrong. There's better, but there's no real wrong.
There you go. There's effective and ineffective.
You don't ever want to put somebody on the defense.
As long as we have as long as we have an understanding, and I get the confrontational part, and nothing I was saying was geared in confrontation.
Confrontation isn't bad. Confrontation is not bad.
Exactly.
No. What I'm saying is it wasn't geared in malicious intent. Let's say confrontation, that's selfish.
You just got to get it off. You got to get off your chest what you got to get off your chest.
That. Right. It's that thing of having a conversation where one is saying, and the peace part. One is saying, not having this conversation would help me feel peace. The other one is saying, I need to have this conversation
for peace.
So I can have peace. Yeah. That's where that coming in the middle comes in and says, hey, when can we have this conversation? What's a good time to have this conversation?
So can I give a different perspective on what peace really is? Peace is really resolution.
I like that.
Because if we're going to revisit this thing 2 days from now, was there really peace?
Right.
No, it wasn't peace. You just said what you wanted to say in the moment, but the problem wasn't resolved, right?
Right.
So, again, Claudette, she's in it again. She's talking about, what asking a question like that can be triggering, because now you're my teacher and I'm in class. Claudette, let me give you a little bit of advice, sweetheart. In a relationship, we're always in class. We're always learning each other. And the moment one of us take the position that you cannot learn from your significant other, the relationship is gonna lose.
Because we have to remember when we talk about these things and we make our statements, I know no one's on here to battle, right?
Right.
So when we make our statements, we have to come from a point of already knowing that we're coming from a good place of communicating.
Well,
We're
and
getting
then,
to
We
we're getting
want
to a
to.
place
We
of
want to.
resolve. We want to get to a place of resolve.
right.
So based on what she's saying, based on what this how this is reading and what I think she's saying, it's almost it would be that would be a statement that comes from someone who the other person is being offensive. They're not coming for
Or
resolution.
they are taking it offensively. They don't necessarily have to be, like you said. Okay, so let me just say this.
Yeah.
I can be offensive and never meant to be offensive.
Correct.
So who decides what's an offense?
What's an offense?
Okay, so here's what should decide what's an offense or not,
Right.
Uh-huh.
because it is subjective.
Right. It is.
Now, here is what's offensive. If what was said was untrue and it was intended to hurt you.
Right.
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 Just
Or
because it
behavior
hurt
with
you does
intent.
not mean it was wrong, nor does it mean it was offensive.
Right. It's behavior
Your
with
feelings,
intent.
offense just means you did not agree with it. I'm offended. Look it up. Offended means I didn't agree.
Right.
Okay, great. So you didn't agree. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
Was it true?
Mm-hmm.
Because we sometimes think confrontation is a bad thing. Like Tony said, confrontation is not always bad. What's bad is avoiding conversations that need to be had.
Right.
Right.
Trying
And
to
naming
duck
it as-
confrontation means that emotionally you're not mature enough to disagree. That's what it
Mhm.
means. You're not emotionally enough to have a conversation that you don't like the outcome of the conversation, right? And usually that's from a perspective of I got to now take a responsibility or accountability for something I did or said.
Right.
If somebody confronts us about our behavior, all of a sudden now we got a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, so are you telling me that you're never wrong? Are you telling me?
I'm saying exactly that. I am never wrong. And I don't
Exactly, because
understand
that's what it
you
comes
understand.
across like. That's what it comes across like. You know, it's like,
So I'm going to share my mom's favorite saying, and it has to do with know-it-alls. You know, like I've been accused of being a know-it-all. Like, and I'm like, say that's not logical. Nobody knows everything.
mhm.
That's not even possible. Okay. Don't confuse my confidence with I think I know it all. But she would always say, those of you who think you know it all are very annoying to those of us who do.
You do.
That's hilarious.
And she actually believed that. She actually believed that.
All right.
She actually.
So in other words, you're saying you know it all and you just realize I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, what it is we're annoyed. We're annoyed by people who are not like us.
Yep.
When it comes to
That's
communication,
exactly what it's saying.
when it comes to communication,
Yeah.
Right.
and what we want, but we really don't want a relationship with ourselves in a one-on-one relationship. Like, we don't want to be by ourselves. Very few people want to be by themselves
Because it's difficult.
You know, I mean, it's not fun. It's kind of boring, you know.
Tony,
But-
you know, most people don't want to be by themselves or with themselves because looking at you can be disappointing. You
Oh, yeah.
listen.
Yeah, there's
The toughest conversation in the world to have is the one you need to have with yourself.
Which is what Mark was saying about the man in the mirror, right? That's what the man in the mirror is all about.
Yep.
Watch this. Offense, annoyance, or resentment brought about by a perceived insult or disregard for oneself or one's standards or principles.
Perceived.
Listen, it's perceived.
Right.
I didn't like it, so I'm just gonna call it offensive. I'm offended. Okay, great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we will make it sound like just because Tony said it in Tony's accent and Tony's tone, and it could have been 100% factual, but I'm offended. Why am I offended? Tony did not lie. And Tony didn't even have ill will when he said it.
I just
The
don't agree
reason
with
that it's offensive is because I have to face something I am not ready to face. That's
Yep.
why it's offensive.
Yep.
And in most cases, that is the case. Most of the time, when we are confronted with something we did or didn't do, we're going to always make an excuse not to deal with it.
Mhm.
It was your tone.
right.
Why
And
you
that's why
looking at me
love,
like that?
and that's why love is tough, because
Yes.
love is both sides. Love isn't just the fuzzy butterflies like we talked about earlier and all the wonderful date. Oh, that was a beautiful date. Oh, you really care for me.
Right.
You
I
love me.
think at
Love
the end
has
of the
another
day,
side.
the term ill will
Mm-hmm.
makes so much sense. Is that's the point? Is there ill will in what you're saying?
my best friends, all of the guys that are really, really, really close to me, and the few female friends that I have that we're really, really close. If they give me some hard truths about me, I don't take it offensively.
Right.
You accept it. You have to accept it.
Right.
But you know why I accept it? Because I already know they desire the best for me.
Yes.
Here's
Yep.
the promise that my crew of friends made to each other: we will always have each other's back.
Right.
We had that conversation last week. We had
Accountability.
we had the show My
Girlfriends.
Girlfriend.
Mhm.
And when that's what we said about our, the women that we associate, we travel in circles with, and we know that are our closest. You can tell me something, and I'm not going to get upset, and for what? Because I know your intention and your love for me is wanting for my best. So why am I going to get upset? Why am I going to get mad? I might not like it,
But if
and it's up
the
to me to make that change in that thing. But and that's how and we spoke on that, didn't we, Corey? Saying this is the type of relationship that we want to have with our mates.
Mhm.
What my girlfriend is, and how I can talk with her, and how we can have our disagreements, but we do it in love and we understand one another. It's relationship. This
Mhm.
is these are relationships. Whether it's your spouse or your best friend, these are the relationships that are important in life.
And knowing that love doesn't always feel good.
right.
Right.
Mm.
My
That
mom,
part.
this is a joke. This is something I used to tell people all the time. My mom used to give me a spanking, right? And she'll say, I'm
Mhm.
doing this because I love
I
you.
love you.
I said, stop loving me.
At that moment. At
Yeah,
that moment.
because here was my definition of
hurt.
love was it's not supposed to hurt,
It's
right?
not supposed to hurt.
But that's not true. Who's told you that?
Right.
Where in any book of principles tell you that love is not going to hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love, listen what the Bible says. God chastens those whom he loves.
Yep.
Mm.
Do you know what chasten means? Spanked your behind.
Yeah, whoop.
Mhm.
That's a whoop. That's a
He,
whoop.
he adds some punishments, right? What is the source of the punishment? God only punishes us when he knows we knew better, but we still chose to do it anyway.
Still chose to do it.
So he has
Mercy.
to give us a consequence so we can never get too comfortable doing something we're not supposed to do.
That's right.
That's love.
Because
It is not love
demands-
when you have a friend
yeah,
or a loved
obedience.
one who will watch you do something ignorant and not say anything.
Yeah, worse. And one of our guests commented on that. Why would you let me do
Mhm.
something that you knew was going to hurt me?
Right.
Mhm.
But you're like,
Teresa.
well, you got to learn. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I think that in most, like if
Teresa.
I tell people all the time, I say, listen, if you have to ask the question, the first thing you should do is ask yourself, why would they not tell me?
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
what have I done that would make somebody not tell me something like that? Right.
Right.
Because I guarantee if you stop long enough to reflect, you're gonna remember how many times you rejected everything they kept trying to tell you. And so after a while, people get tired of talking. They be like, okay, we'll let
Yep.
you we'll let you figure it out on your own since you
Yep. You got it.
You refuse to, and when you get them knees bruised up. God said this. He says, I will never leave you or forsake you. He never said, I will prevent you from suffering the consequences.
That's right. That's right.
So in other words, what he's saying is, once you make that decision that you hell-bent on making, and them consequences come, I'll still hear you.
Yep.
But I'm not taking it away from you.
But you got to deal with those consequences.
You got to deal with them.
Yep. That's life.
I'll be there to pick you up.
There you go.
Dust you off.
Hey, I won't let you sulk too long. I'll pay. Come on now. Hey,
learn
from it. Learn from it. Change your ways. Because that's what he tells you. He say, ask for forgiveness, turn from your wicked ways, and do something different.
And do
now
something
you don't have
different.
to feel that pain right there no more.
Mm-hmm.
But when we refuse to learn and turn, we revisit that same place every single time.
Learn and turn. That's a good one.
Learn and turn.
Learn and turn.
Learn and turn. All right, y'all. We're going to learn and turn at this point. It is 10:25. I love this. We had a great time, and I'm sure we could go on and on and on. But we want to be able to marinate on the information that we heard and take some things. Hopefully we took some things and we have some growth and continued growth with the things that we heard. And
hey, Donna, do you mind if I make a quick announcement?
Sure.
This is something very near and dear to my heart, guys. For those of you who are watching this show and those of you who are going to look at the replay of this, Corey B is single and she's currently looking for a good man.
She is not looking. She's positioning herself.
Okay, she's positioning herself to receive a Boaz. We only want Boazes. We don't want other kind of.
Corey, I had no clue. I'm sorry. No seriousness, Jimmy. I thought you had something like.
I thought he was gonna make some.
That's why it works. That's why it works.
Right.
Oh gosh.
I love you all dearly. I appreciate y'all hanging with me tonight, as always. The right people are always in place. For those who I know who wanted to be here and could not make it, love you. I want to
shout out. I would like to shout out to Claudette for hanging with us.
Yeah, Claudette was in here.
Yeah,
that's the real one. Claudette is my big sister. That's my older sister.
Oh, good.
Claudette was throwing those gems out there.
We usually see her as Paul Rogers.
Oh, okay.
That's her husband's name. Yeah, usually Paul's name is on here. But yeah, that's my big sister. Yeah, she throwing them out. Yeah. She throwing them out.
Tony, Donna, I don't know what you did to get Tony on here. When we get celebrities on the show,
you've been missing the action because this is Tony's second time.
I was going to say that about Jimmy. See, you were supposed to be on with me.
My bad.
And then
more
important.
We've been celebrating anniversaries and all kind of stuff.
Right. So. I see you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
that's
what I'm trying to do for my sister. I'm trying to get her to that anniversary state. You know what I'm saying?
It'll come. It's there. It's coming.
That's the man's job. The man's job.
But we're trying to get her prepared for it. You know what I'm saying? We the women that had the lamps, but they didn't have no oil. We trying to
She got the oil.
She got plenty of oil.
Okay. We just want to make sure she got it with her then. It's not at the house.
Oh my gosh.
She have her oil. So everybody, thank you for joining tonight. I really appreciate you hanging with us next Thursday. I'm not sure yet what the topic is. Y'all on the platform, hold on, sit tight with me. Let's say good night to everybody. Good night.
Good night. Good night.